Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of DTA, part of the Tales from the Table reproductive rights charity drive that we're running through this month and August. Before we get started tonight, we've got quite a lot to talk about, actually. So we're going to take it from the top. First, real quick, thanks to Lost Haven Art for our amazing logo and the assets that would become our overlay. Now, as I just said, we're running the Tales from the Table reproductive rights charity drive over this month and the next in order to raise money for the National Network of Abortion Funds so that we can help provide assistance, aid, and the right to bodily autonomy to people who need it and may not have access to it. If you are interested in being a part of this in any way, please feel free. The link is right down here. You can click donate. Any amount helps. If you can't right now, that's fine. Tell people about the event. Share the link. Every bit helps, whether it be money, word of mouth, or otherwise. With that said, we've got a lot of amazing games coming up throughout the next month and a half at this point, including a two-part Veil of the Void game run by Andrew, that gamer Ajax, who makes amazing Veil of the Void content. We've got a 4-episode Avatar Legends Breaking Point game that's going to be run by at Zoe Trooper, who's also incredible. You may have seen her in any number of things recently. She's been really busy. We're going to have a cool look at a original setting for Lancer that's going to be a little more cyberpunky, and it's really cool. I've been lucky enough to be able to see a lot of the pieces as they've been in progress and cannot rave about this game enough. We're going to be running a 3 or 4, I will update you on Twitter as I make sure, a 3 or 4 part game of Root, run by Marshall from Iron Echo Games, who we'll talk about again in a little bit. We have a 3-part Legend of the Five Rings game, which is run by an amazing, incredibly knowledgeable GM who I can't wait to have the opportunity to sit down at the table with. And in August, we're going to be running a 4-episode or 5-episode series of games run by Jack of Gods and Game Masters in his third-party D&D 5th edition setting of Rega. With all of that said, and there will be more games to come, which is the really exciting part. But with all of that said, there's also something happening this weekend that I'm really excited to talk about and have been talking about a lot and will continue to talk about, which is our Days of Tales event. So July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, we're going to be running a series of 12-hour streams from noon to midnight EST with a number of amazing games. On Friday, we're going to have Shibuya Nights run by its creator. We're going to have A Familiar Problem. We're going to have Ryutama and Knights Black Agents. On Saturday, we've got Monster of the Week, panel that we're going to have discussing mental and physical health in the TTRPG space, which is going to be absolutely fascinating. Don't miss it. We're going to have Pokemon Tales, also run by Marshall from Iron Echo Games. We have a cool mystery game taking place rounding out Saturday night, which I think everyone's going to really enjoy. Then on Sunday, we've got When the End Comes, which is a newly released horror TTRPG using the Breathless system that I am absolutely in love with and can't wait to share with you guys. We're going to have Troll Hunt, a D&D 5e one-shot, Masks, and then to round out the game, you're going to see a couple of these amazing faces again as I sit down with some of the cast of DTA to play some Jackbox games with you. This is all going on over the course of this coming weekend. We're going to be raising money for the National Network of Abortion Funds. On top of that, for every donation, you are added into a list of incredible giveaways that we're going to be doing, and there are a lot of them. Anyone who donates over $75 between now and the end of July is going to get a seat at a private table with Marshall from Iron Echo Games, which is not to be missed. And the 4 people who donate the most between now and the end of August are going to get seats at a private level 20 D&D 5e game written and run by Jack of Gods and Game Masters, who wants you to bring your most powerful builds because they will be tested. We've got an amazing dice box, some great stickers that are being provided by the Shady Sale, which is just absolutely gorgeous. You can go to my Twitter and check that out. They're so pretty. A fantastical adventure through a 3-book series based on a TTRPG written by Thread of Souls, We've also got an amazing. We've also got the incredible Foxfire Dice has offered up a commission for a custom dice set, as well as a commissioned piece of artwork from Lost Haven Art. Again, amazing person who did our logo and our parts of our overlay. And also Jack of Gods and Game Masters, again, who will be offering up a creative commission. There's also more that's going to be announced soon, and a couple things that are still in the works that will probably be specifically for August, but we'll get to that later. For now, please check out any and all of these games. We're really excited to bring them to you. We're going to have some cast updates soon, which I'm also really excited to share with everyone. Watch, enjoy, donate, spread the word. It's a good cause. It's great games. It's great people. What more could you want? So, with that said, unless there's anything that I've missed that my illustrious players can think of, no? Great. Then it's time for us to get on with episode 10 of Dice Trays Action. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. Great. So, the last time on DTA, the group of intrepid adventurers had quite the public spectacle to attend, if I remember correctly. There was a life-changing show that the group took in, an opera, by the name of The Loss of Hope, and boy, was it in fact The Loss of Hope. Written by a let's call her a once in a generation talent, whether that be in a good way or a bad way. Who knows? I guess that depends on who you ask. But what? You have to press the thing.
Yeah, my int score went down watching that.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so a 3-act play that the group endured, at the end of which Kunskap raucously applauded before getting the opportunity to tell our beloved playwright about the value or lack thereof of her work, while Toby desperately tried to avoid the interest that had been garnered. It was quite the event. Afterwards, the group of you decided to take the trip back to meet with the Hand, Galbraith Runelith, to discuss the job that had been offered to you in exchange for information and aid in the more pressing matters at hand. After a short conversation where Galbraith revealed that, unlike he had initially stated, there was in fact a bit of a timetable for this. Yeah. So, unlike the fact that he originally said that there was not a timetable, he is in fact asking for the group to be able to have procured the box in question by Prosperity Day, which is only 4 days away. Well, 3 days away now. After some light conversation, the group decided that they would get back to him on whether or not they would need a way to access Ambergate in order to procure said item. And most of you went on your way. Some to return home, well, the place that you are currently resting, and some to return to the after party that our esteemed playwright was holding for the successful opening of her new play. Meanwhile, Rory hung back in order to spend some time with Everall and share a bit of prayer and discuss some personal matters. At this after party, which I believe, was it just Toby, Girna, and Aksha? Correct? So, which Toby, Girna, and Aksha went to. They managed to swipe a bottle of rum, spend a bit of time once again, sort of avoiding Toby's newest admirer, and picked up a little bit of interesting information about another one of the people on the list of missing persons, Chirrus. Chirrus Tuxus. Then, everyone decided to call it a night, returning to their respective places of rest. Through the night, Kunskop had a strange, although perhaps to them not incredibly so, dream. And what that means, I suppose we'll find out as we go. Now, the group of you in your respective locations are awoken by the pitter-patter of raindrops pelting against the windows or walls of the tent in Kunskop's case. Soft, continuous, just a tapping against your places of rest. The sky is gray and overcast with a bit of a fog, similar to the one that tends to linger around Kunskop's tent, just sort of rolling through the streets. It's not cold, but perhaps a touch chilly today. And you can feel that even from inside, the small bits of wind that break through the wooden walls or, again, tented sides of your domiciles. Good morning. What does everyone want to do?
As soon as Kunskap awakes from their vision dream, they will get up, look around their tent, and walk out to, or walk towards the tent flap, making sure it is tied. In a swift motion, they remove their mask, sliding their hand through their hair and looking through their own tent for a second, and then looking up towards the ceiling and wiping a tear away from their eye before resuming putting the mask back on and nodding their thanks.
I believe, Girna, you were in the tent with Kunskap today. Yes?
Mm-mm.
No? Was it?
Kunskap was alone.
Oh, I don't know why I thought Girna had come with you. All right. Interesting. And the rest of you?
When Rory wakes up, he's gonna finish working on the project that he's been doing over the past day or so.
Sure. What does that look like?
Describe it in a second. After finishing up, he's gonna go down and wait for Toby to come down.
Toby may have been there already, depending upon how long it took you to finish that project. And Toby will have sworn off some drinks this morning because he's had a lot to drink in the previous day. And we'll be probably having some breakfast with whatever's available with some water to wash that down.
Great.
When he comes.
It's one moment. It's very simple breakfast today. It's just sort of a very plain oatmeal. There's a bit of honey that's been mixed in, but other than that, there's very little else. There's a bit of a shock from Pavish as you sort of turn down the offer of a good morning ale, but after double checking 2 or 3 times, he backs off and leaves you with your oatmeal.
Yeah. When Rory comes down, he'll wave over to Toby. Toby, I made you something.
Oh, a gift?
He pulls out this large square box with a bit of cushioning on top of it. I know you've had some issues finding places to sit that accommodate your size.
No.
He's going to
And-
hold out in front of him, pull a little lever, and legs come out from the bottom. And he puts it on the ground.
Toby's gonna get up and like look at it and just be absolutely fascinated by like the transformation aspect of it.
There's also a strap on two of the sides that you can sling around your back.
That is fascinating. So Toby's gonna go up to it and just kind of like put his hand on it, just like to press down, just like to test it a little bit.
It feels like the chair that you were sitting in back in the Guildhall.
This is amazing. And he's gonna be like, may I sit?
It's yours.
And he just kind of gingerly, slowly plops.
It'll handle-
himself. And
It's durable.
and as soon as he realizes this, in just wide-eyed fascination, gets up and goes over to Rory and tries to give you a big hug.
Okay.
Just big, strong hug of thank you so much. So comfortable. So well done.
Of course.
You
Yeah.
are a master.
Yeah. It looked like you needed something with every place that we've gone to.
This is true, but Toby will cherish it forever.
Of course. And
Oh,
he goes over to it and picks it up and shows him, like, you pull this, and the legs of the chair just collapse back into the thing.
So we're sitting at like I don't know if they have like booths or a table. at
It's
this
like
point?
it's like a table.
Okay, so Toby's gonna take the chair that he was sitting in here, just kind of move it over to the side and take this chair and put it down where he was, and then sit in it and be like, yes, Toby likes this.
And Furry will sit down at the table with him.
Akshay, Girna.
Aksha has been awake for a while because he doesn't sleep that much, but he's poring over his mentor's book again. He's trying to figure things out.
Excellent. And if you're gonna spend some time with that, you can roll me let's call it a straight intelligence check.
Straight up into it.
In the meantime, Girna, what are you getting up to?
Girna knows that we're going somewhere fancy today, so she's gonna take some time to polish up very nice. Get that buff and shine going. And then she'll head downstairs to meet her compatriots.
So wordlessly, as Girna is sort of coming down, Pavish walks past the table and drops off another bowl of oatmeal in front of Rory, and just keeps walking off to deal with another patron.
Thank you.
Hey,
Good morning.
Good morning. Look at what Rory made for Toby. Toby has seat forever.
Girna's gonna sort of at the waist bend this way and take a look. It's
You-
a lovely chair.
You have been such good friends to Toby, to me. I appreciate you, and you are so skilled.
Glad you enjoyed it.
I'm so glad you no longer have these problems. Do these legs go up? She's like looking under the seat at the.
They collapse in, kind of like the tent that I have.
Hmm. What wonderful craftsmanship!
Thank you.
After a little while, Coonskop will enter the tavern. Their presentation seems more put together than usual. The soot and black around their eyes under the mask is reapplied, which hasn't been done in some time. It seems that all the little trinkets and tokens hanging off of their robes have been polished and shined up. Even the bones look like they've been cleaned a little. And everyone also notices that there is in the mask, right at the head, is a rune carved into it. And Coonskop, as if nothing has changed, just sits down and looks at everyone. Morning.
Good morning, Kunskap Sokar. You are looking quite well.
I had a good night.
That is good to hear.
You are well rested.
Very.
This is good. I think we will have long day today.
Long day to get much done, yes?
So
Agreed.
So, moving back to Aksha for a moment, what did you get on that in check?
19.
Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so you're sitting in. Initially, you're only planning on taking a little bit of time to sort of flip through the pages to see if there's just anything you can pick up. You've read this thing so many times already and aren't really expecting much, but you find yourself sort of losing track of the time as you pour through the pages, just trying to scan it as best you can. A lot of it is just so far above your understanding, and either conceptually or just mechanically, like magical equations and magical theory that you never even came close to being able to sort of dip your foot in, much less understand. And so a lot of this is just impossible to understand. But you do notice as time goes on that the way that some of these mathematical, magical equations have sort of been jammed together are reminiscent of a few that your master had begun to try explaining to you, and they don't seem to follow their own principles. And trying to cross-reference them against some of the magical theory, which again is almost mentally exhausting to do, as you just don't know most of it. Even so, there's a lot of pieces in it that you can match up as clearly being opposites and being put together in a way that can't possibly work or exist, and that no one who really understands magic, especially not the way that your master did, would ever even attempt to put these things together. It's almost akin to trying to divide by zero. It's just not possible. And you can't really find anything that it leads you to, but it's very clear that it's not just there is some kind of probably cipher of some sort in here, but more than that is there is some kind of intentional decision to make these mistakes, but you're not really sure why that would be. Obviously, he has tried to leave some kind of message for someone, or intentionally create nonsensical work in this, but it's hard to figure out why and to differentiate. By the time you look up, it's been about an hour and a half almost.
Ugh, Aksha's brain hurts so much. This is so taxing. Master hides things. Has been hiding things. I don't understand. Enough book though. I'll put book away. I'll go downstairs. So Aksha gets up and leaves his room. And when y'all see him coming down the stairs, he's kind of walks over to the table. Good morning, and sits down.
And almost immediately upon Aksha taking a seat, again, just a bowl of this like honeyed oatmeal is just dropped in front, and Pavos just keeps on going.
Oh, thank you.
Ah.
So what is
Okay.
our plan for today?
I'm forgetting if the alchemist told me to go back today or if it was another day.
I think
I
they said
forget-
2
I forget if it was an
days.
overnight
believe-
event.
I believe it was 2 days.
Okay, so then I wouldn't be looking for that today.
Well, first we have breakfast with the Baron, and then perhaps we can convince him to get us into the museum to take a tour.
Didn't the hand say they would have someone to get us there?
On the night of breaking in, but not to get a tour.
Okay. Right.
We could ask the hand for help or do it ourselves.
Well, I believe that the hand actually has someone to help us get into the museum on the nights that we are going to lighten their inventory.
Hmm.
But for the rest, if we want to do any reconnaissance, that is on us.
As far as I am aware, and I could be wrong on this, we're already going to go see the Baron to have breakfast. But the problem of Ambergate is not that you can't just go to the museum, it's that you can't get to into Ambergate to begin with. Once we have seen the Baron, I do not see why we can't just go to the museum from the Baron's house. We have a way into Ambergate by way of the Baron's invitation. We can just go to the museum after that and not involve the Baron at all in this particular endeavor. It is not a alliance that I would enjoy putting at risk so early.
Oh, I did not think that we should mention to him at all. But it would be foolish to try and rob the museum in daylight hours when it is open.
Kind of scoping,
Yes.
seeing, yes. What? Seeing layout, understanding how to get around properly, yes.
Yes, intel.
Yes, I understand.
This seems like a good idea. I have no experience in theft or robbery.
Say I do either.
Help Lilith raid things like tombs. But that is the best of my experience.
In my youth, I did join a raiding party of my people, but besides that, I also have not had much experience in the art of, what is the term, being a cat thief?
Maybe it's cat's burglar.
I also do not have experience with museums. Can anyone describe a museum to me?
It's big. It has stuff that people found, and you go there to look at the stuff.
Ah,
Usually this stuff is of a historical nature.
Ah, old stuff.
Yes, very old stuff from important people and places.
I would be interested to see this museum. Perhaps we could go to scope it out, as you said.
I think that would be for the best if we could manage it.
So the plan is to go meet up with the Baron and ask him for the tour then?
Well, I don't think we need to ask him anything. I think we can just go to the museum after we meet with him.
Yes, maybe we should not mention it to him at all, especially if we plan to rob it in the next 3 days.
Do we have a
Yes.
way to get into Ambergate without the Baron?
We are getting into Ambergate to meet with the Baron. We're already going to be in Ambergate.
Right.
Presuming there's no one to escort us back out of Ambergate, we can go where we like.
Yes, once in Ambergate, I think we are okay. So it's just leaving.
We just need to convince the Baron that we will see ourselves out.
Correct.
I understand this plan.
Should we head over there now then? It's going to be a walk around the.
Yes, I believe that would be a good course of action. Get this done as soon as possible.
All right.
And
Uh,
if everyone is ready,
Yes, actually ready.
One moment. And I stand up, and then upon like kind of gesturing with Rory, I find the right lever to hit to
Yeah.
pack up my new chair. And so it's like, thank you again, Rory. Put it back on my back. And I am ready.
Gina, all of you would recognize this. There are at least some subtle similarities in this device and things you would probably see coming out of the Dominion. There are some very small similarities that are that are very, very hard to ignore, just because they're not something you would really see anywhere else. Just in how things have kind of been spring loaded a bit as it is packed up. With that, the group of you head out.
On our way there, do we see any of my friends flying about?
Well, first, does everyone have like a cloak or something for the rain? Or is anyone
Yeah.
just getting like rained on?
I believe that Kunskap is literally a walking cloak. So
That is correct, yes.
This weather does not bother Toby.
Cool. Yeah.
Actually, I already had cloak, so
same.
oh no, Toby's gonna smell like wet bear when we get there.
And everyone will have to deal with it.
Pretty much. Okay, so Kunskap, you could roll me a let's call it a perception at disadvantage because of the rain, which as you exit you see is starting to come down much heavier and creates almost sort of sheets of rain coming down.
that is an 8 in total.
You don't see any of your friends flying around. It's not particularly surprising. It's very bad weather between the fog and the clouds and the thick, heavy rain. It's very unlikely that any are out here. But if there are none that you can see. The chill has begun to set in a bit more. Even throughout the walk, it becomes a bit more cutting. Now, for some of you, that means nothing. But for others, it might. Eventually, though, your walk brings you around to the gates of Ambergate. The entire row of sort of opened gated area that stretches outwards in either direction is very in line with what you would expect to see from this place. It's very well maintained, well kept. They're almost sort of an opaline, pearlescent white, and the rain as it falls on it sort of almost creates this slight prism effect any time that any light sort of peers through these gray clouds. On the opposite side of the gate from where you are presently, you see two very well dressed, well armored guards people who also bear the symbol of the Silver Crest. And as you approach, they don't really even bother to acknowledge you until such a time as you would attempt to get their attention. One of them is pretty clearly an older human gentleman, probably not having a particularly good day, having his armor flooded. The other, however, is a very young looking elvish woman who would know this, who all of you can tell have incredibly sharp features that generally tend to lend themselves more towards what you would expect to see of some of the Sylvanesti or Qualinesti sort of high elves, which again, things being what they are, is not someone you would expect to see too often here in a place like Lysantis, although, you know, some of everyone. But again, the two of them pay you very little mind, continuing on a conversation about something just out of earshot as they wait for.
Can I read their lips?
Do you have anything that would let you do that?
Linguist.
And how exactly does that work?
I can read lips from a distance, I believe. It just doesn't give me a.
That's
Isn't that
observant, not
observant?
linguist.
Yeah.
I believe that's observant as well.
Oh, you're right.
You can still attempt to if you'd like, but you're going to be doing a perception check with disadvantage, and it's going to be pretty difficult. But you can give it a shot as long as you're trained in perception.
No, it's fine. I am
Okay.
going to approach the two guards.
So you can get like right up to the gate if you'd like,
Yeah.
before they acknowledge you.
I'm not going to try to slide past the gate. I'm going to go right up to them and say, we have an invitation from the Baron to join him for breakfast this morning.
And the older gentleman sort of looks you up and down. The five of you, huh?
Yes.
He reaches into his cloak and he sort of pulls it over to cover the papers that he takes out from the rain, and he is just sort of like, he looks up. Here, can you hold this, please? And he like hands you the cloak.
Twinskop just holds the cloak without a second's hesitation.
And he just starts sort of thumbing through these scroll work like papers as you hold the cloak over it. He looks up. He puts most of them away, and then he takes the cloak. You go, thank you so much.
Of course.
There's the bear, the lion, fancy armor. Yeah, all right, that's close enough. You know, it's funny, when I was given these papers, one of them just said, you'll know him when you see them. Yep. He folds them up and he like holds up his cloak and passes them over to you. and it here, just take them.
Kunskap takes them and says, I don't know what you mean by that.
Yep. Well, it's not every day we see someone like you around here. It's a pretty interesting look. And then from not too far off behind him, you hear the elvish woman go, "I like it. It's unique and powerful."
Kunskap says thank you in Sylvan to the elf.
And she just sort of looks at you curiously.
And then tries thank you in Enyal.
And she sort of nods and responds in Enyal, and she goes, What was that?"
I apologize. I have so many languages I know. I get them mixed up sometimes. That was Sylvan.
Where would you learn something like that?
My travels take me far. I meet interesting entities and people.
Perhaps sometimes into the forest.
I would call that my home.
Indeed. Well, she says in the common tongue, enjoy your time, and if you are not coming back through when we are here, just hand your papers to whoever is on duty, and they will sort it out.
Quick question for you. We have heard tell of the museum. Is it open today?
The Amber Gaze, you mean?
Yes.
It is.
We were wondering if we would be able to visit the museum after our breakfast, just as a way to pass the time in this rain.
I would like you to roll me a deception. Pass the time my ass.
This is not going to be very good. Nope. That's a 5.
Well, if you are interested in going to the museum, you should have ample time. Just ensure that you get your papers signed by the Baron and that it notes where you plan to go while you're here. It would be quite unfortunate if you were found somewhere you weren't supposed to be in your stay.
Yes, well, it's not hard to see me, so I'm sure that if I'm not supposed to be somewhere, that I will be told very quickly.
Makes it easy to keep an eye on you, doesn't it?
It does. I am not one to keep hidden.
Good.
Aksha bounces over to where Kunskap and this lady are speaking, and he looks up at her. He's like, "Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know if Brent Halwyn is home?"
I do not believe Master Tolrin is around, but from what I've heard, he should be back in a number of days. I know how much he enjoys Prosperity Day, and I'm certain we will likely see him by then.
Do you know where he went?
I do not. It is not often my job to police the comings and goings of the nobility.
Oh, much understand. But thank you.
Not a
Aksha
problem.
appreciates.
If you'd like, I can also ensure word is left at his estate for you.
Yes, Aksha would like this.
Would you like me to tell him it is pertaining to anything?
Aksha is looking to speak to him about his mentor, Brinthar Kaunda.
And how do you spell that? She says, she sort of like pulls out a piece of charcoal and starts trying to scratch it out on a piece of like scrap paper.
Aksha spells it out.
She folds it up and she tucks it into her cloak and she goes, I will ensure that what is left as soon as my shift is done.
Much appreciated. You are very kind.
I
Aksha
appreciate
the
that.
Isabel.
That is very kind of you to say. I am simply doing my job. Is there anything else I can do for the lot of you?
Just show us the way to the Baron's estate.
Well, I cannot, as I am stationed here. I'm sure Elrith will not mind guiding you over. It's not like he has much else to be doing anyway. Yeah, I could do that. We could do that. All right. Moving these tired bones. You know, when we get the storms like this, everything creaks. So the Baron, huh? Big day, big day. I know he's a busy guy, and he starts sort of leading the group of you, and whoever is going to end up taking point is who he sort of stations himself next to, and just does not stop talking.
Kunskap will walk beside them as they go.
And he looks over at them and just it's a big deal. What kind of business you got with the Baron? It's okay. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I just know Prosperity Day is coming up. He's got a lot he's doing. It's pretty busy times, and with everything else, who knows when he's gonna have a moment again? If you're lucky to be able to get this time, when you get the nice fancy breakfast with him too, that's pretty good too. A lot of people don't have really the time or the inclination to have a nice breakfast. It's real good that you guys are getting that opportunity. Where are you coming from? You guys knew each other for a while now? Just some kind of traveling group of adventurers? What's the deal? It's pretty sure you got an interesting story going on, huh? It's got to be something great going on here. He just keeps going.
Kunskap will wait for a moment of pause and then turn to them and go, "You wouldn't happen to have any raven in your ancestry, would you?"
I don't think so.
Fascinating. And just continues walking.
You're not a real talkative bunch. That's okay. That's fine. I don't really take any offense to it. I know everyone's got their own story and their own things going on, and that's really fine. And oh, look, we're here. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for giving me a reason to stretch out these old bones.
Of course.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, it's a real pleasure. Y'all take
What
care.
was your name?
What?
What was your name?
Elrith.
And your compatriot?
Oh, that was Delmuth.
Delmith and Evereth. Fascinating.
It's so funny. It just kind of worked out that way. It wasn't something that was planned. Like, we didn't know each other before getting into the service, and really only worked together a number of times before being stationed at the gate here. But, now every so often it happens, she's there a lot of the time. She's running the whole operation, and we're just sort of, back and forth, to and fro. She's got so many shifts that it's not really that surprising. Sometimes we end up together.
Kunskap almost casts silence in the area, but continues on their way to the Baron's door.
Well, y'all take care now.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
It's been an absolute joy. And if you need anything, ask around. I'm pretty easy to find. Don't got much to do. It's not like anyone's raiding Ambergate, right? He's sort of like almost aggressively, but clearly not intentionally, is like elbowing you in the ribs.
Kunskap is very quickly trying to get away from the situation.
And he sort of just waves and starts slowly like making his way back towards the gate.
Toby has never been happier to bring up the rear in the group.
Are humans always this chatty? Do they always talk so fast?
Humans love to talk as far as my experience goes. Love it. It's one of their favorite things.
So,
The speed of the response of that makes Kuhnskap shudder, as if Girna was about to go into a 15-minute conversation about that very thing.
so, oh, please go ahead.
Actually, I was just gonna say that maybe Delmas could be of use later. He seems to have diarrhea of mouth. Could have benefit to conversation. Maybe he'll blurt things. So humans,
Ooh,
since humans like talk.
sneaky. I likes it.
Just,
Although I
just
will
thought.
say, Kunskap so good that maybe talking to the museum with the guards who guards the area, might not have been the best.
I thought it's better if we are very open about where we are going when we are out in the day. It's usually would give them less credence to think of us as shady when we are moving about. If we try to be sneaky now, it will bring more suspicion later.
Well, apparently we not sneaky. They always say we look weird. Why?
That is a question I don't know the answer
I
of.
don't understand. I thought Aksha takes care of scales really well.
So too.
It is probably because of me.
I wouldn't say that. I think it's because of Rory.
I ask why.
You give off a radiance not seen in many others.
Or what?
A radiance.
Aksha would say very like what's the word? Regal presence. Yes. Very, very
Yeah,
It's true,
Very
very
up-
majestic.
yes.
that is the correct word.
But we did learn that all we need is Baron's signature. Baron does not have to know we're going to museum.
I think
See
there
how-
has to be something in the paperwork that also states where we are going, not just a signature. But I could be wrong.
I do not know.
Let us find out. And Gieran's gonna walk up to the door and knock, I guess.
It's true, we weren't let inside.
It's true. So, the Baron's estate, actually, that you've sort of stopped in front of, is a rather large, what seems like single building. There's a sort of row of shrubbery that create a sort of almost casual border around it, acting kind of like a natural fence. And into it is carved just these really intricate sort of shapes and patterns to create this like interchanging sort of woven together design. And through it you can see glimpses of the front sort of space before the main entrance. Walking past that, you see a number of large bushes carved very carefully into what are they called? Topiaries, carved into intricate designs of different animals that you would expect to see in the area. Things like wolves. And, there's one that looks kind of like a wild stallion, sort of riding forward. There's a number of them. They sort of line the pathway. There also is, right by the stairs, the stone steps leading up to the front door proper, on either side, a small fountain. It looks almost like an oversized bird bath, and it scoops in. The water is settled very calmly, and surrounding it are what looks like almost meticulously placed bits of like seed around the rim, like what we would consider maybe like a margarita glass almost. And jutting out from the sides of it are perches. Um, the door itself is this sort of deep cherry wood, and the knocker is shaped like a horse's face with sort of a set of reins hanging from its neck that come together into this sort of palm-sized stone knocker.
Knock knocker.
Boom, boom, boom. You can sort of hear it beyond the door, echoing through the manse. And then after a moment, the door swings open. Before you is a very old, very short-looking gnome. His big furrowed eyebrows almost coming up past the top of his head. His hair withered and sort of missing in a lot of places, but what's left has been sort of slicked over almost haphazardly to try and cover up what he can. He's dressed in these incredibly fine clothes with sort of silver buttons that go all the way down his like deep red and purple tunic, and he has his hands behind his back, and he sort of like leans forward on his tiptoes and looks up, one hand coming around to sort of adjust his spectacles a bit, and he goes, "Yeah, can I help you?"
We are here on invitation from the Baron.
Uh-huh. We'll just see about that. Come. And he turns and he walks past. Rather, he walks deeper into the home. As I assume the group of you enter, is there a marching order, by the way? Or are you all just sort of crowded around?
I'm last, intentionally last, because I'm gonna shake off when I get inside. So
Great.
Unskap as a cultural precedence of their people. As soon as they enter the house, they remove the long blade from their robes and places it on the nearby table next to the door.
Sure, yeah. You can do that. Yeah. So it's just kind of gonna be Kunskap and then everyone else and Toby bringing up the rear, kind of.
Probably stop.
Yeah, you're just gonna double take at the knife placing and then gingerly place her her weapon on the wall next to it, like leaning.
Sure. So the group of you enter, and immediately you find yourselves in this sort of foyer area, and the walls are covered in these banners, and each banner seems to be woven with more of the same sort of patterns that you saw out in the shrubberied, like natural fencing outside. Beyond that, there are a couple of paintings that sort of sit between each of the banners with different events that, at first glance, seem to be indicative of different events that have happened throughout the history of Southreach. There are small plaques underneath each one, although the gnome does not seem to be interested in stopping or slowing down long enough for you to have time to read them. There are a couple of end tables that are situated on either side of the door, and they have a number of things on them, nothing that particularly is interesting or of note. There's some flowers and a couple like very fancy looking stones, but yeah, you have plenty of place to put down your knife and gear. If you want, you'll have to walk a little bit off from the like carpeted area to go lean your clockwork staff against the wall, but you're free to do that as well. As
But
you
the knife is placed on the table. Kunskap does say something that, as far as I know, is not a shared language. And if anyone here, it sounds almost like a prayer as they gently put the blade down on the table.
And then Toby, you're the last one in. And are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna like wait till people are a couple steps away at least, so I'm not getting people wet again, and just kind of shake.
And as you do, the gnome. Oh yeah, please.
I'm also gonna. I have my 10-foot pole, so I'm going to follow Girna off and kind of just like set it on the side because I'm thinking we're all doing this. So
Sure. So as Toby, as you shake off, the gnome just stops walking. Please refrain from doing that. Please.
and is this after I put my pole down or before?
This would be like about as you're starting to put your pole down.
Oh, so I would just immediately take the pole back and be like, I'm sorry.
And he turns almost in this incredibly rigid, like turn on heel, and just stares at you with these big brown eyes for a moment, sort of adjusting his spectacles again to make sure. Not the pole. The tapestries and artwork that line this beautiful foyer are one of a kind and cannot deal with whatever mess it is that you have attempted to create here. Not to mention, but please refrain from spreading your wetness as best you can.
Sir, if I may, if you would be able to, we were trying to avoid tracking any mud or water through our host's home. If you have another way of which can alleviate this issue, a towel perhaps for our more fur-lined friends, then this would not be an issue.
Roll me a persuasion.
When Scott said, "Do your job better."
Where's your hospitality?
You were trying to be nice. What are you worried about? That is a 18.
I suppose that's fair. Just stay there. You can wipe your respective boots and greaves, he says, looking over at Girna, on the carpet. I will bring you a towel, then collect your cloaks. And then he sort of steps off into one of the side rooms.
Bringing one towel for all of us to share. Just the one.
A hand towel. It's like this big.
Well, he said he was going to bring a towel for Toby and collect everyone else's wet cloaks. It's fine.
So I am putting my pole back down. Like I had it like an inch off the wall. It is now back on the wall.
So after a moment, he returns and he's got this large, very thick, sort of furred towel. It's this sort of very deep brown. He hands it over to Toby, and then he looks at the rest of you and goes, "Your cloaks?"
I will be keeping my cloak, thank you.
You can't just go around dripping everywhere. It's going to make a mess, which, as your friend has said, is what we're trying to avoid.
When Scott looks over at Girda, and there is an obvious apprehension in their eyes.
Is there like a vase or anything around?
Sure, yeah.
I walk over to said vase and twist my cloak out into it.
And as you begin sort of twisting it, he drops Rory's cloak with a wet and runs over, sort of like jumping to reach up high enough to grab your arm and try and pull
As
it
he runs
away.
by, Rory's just going to point down and say, "You dropped that."
No! What are you doing?
Putting water in the vase where you will put some lovely flowers, and then I will not jump.
You're putting dirty cloak water into the vase. That vase is priceless. Flowers that go in that vase don't want your dirty, traveled cloak water?
I don't think flowers care what kinds of waters they drink.
Well, then you just don't know flowers.
I feel like this is factually inaccurate, but I will respect this. And then she walks away.
No, but
What is this gnome wearing?
he's got this like sort of very very fancy like mostly purple top on with like a long row of buttons and just nice black like bottoms.
That's it.
That's it. And his
Okay.
glasses.
All right, so Toby's gonna take his hat off because he's collecting all the cloaks and everything. So he has his wet hat. So he's gonna come over and just like put his hat on the gnome, like yeah, wet hat right on gnome's head, and be like, ah, yes, this too, thank you. I imagine I also had to reach down a very long distance.
Yeah, you
to
had
do
to
that.
like you had to kind of almost kneel to get it on him.
Yes,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
just about
No.
3 feet tall.
Don't want to step on the little fella.
Master, strange company. And at this point, he just sort of trudges. He like pushes up the hat enough that he can see under it, and just sort of trudges back, grabbing Rory's cloak and dragging it along the floor towards the room that he had just come out of, which is the as he opens the door and like leaves it open, is a closet. And he just sort of like tosses the lid in and takes off the hat and throws it in as well. And then he slams the door.
Raksha bounces over to him and he's like, "Here, cloak."
And without looking, he pulls
And
the
then
door
flexes
open,
his wings.
and he flings it behind him and slams the door again.
That is just bad manners.
Are we all comfortable now? Are we good? Can we proceed? The master is waiting for you.
Oh yes.
As soon as the gnome starts walking, Kunskap lets out I'm guessing to Girna and Toby, a audible sigh of relief as they begin to walk forward.
So it's a bit of a walk. The place is kind of a bit of a maze of hallways and rooms, most of the doors of which have been closed. But you do catch a glimpse of what looks like a study and another glimpse of what looks like a library. And eventually you are brought into a rather large room that looks like a dining hall with this very, 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 like three sets of very, very long tables. And then he leads you past that room and into a connecting room, which has a significantly smaller, though still large, table that seems to have been carved from some kind of single large tree. And on that table are all sorts of foods. There's give me a moment. There is all sorts of foods. You've got a number of different like types of fish. You've got anchovies, salmon, trout, herring, salt fish, cod. There's some hake, all sort of spread out. And there's a couple different ways that it's being served. Some of it has been mashed. Some of it has been sort of left on the bones to be taken as necessary. Some of it is being served as like sort of ribbed. You've also got a lot of like porridges in large bowls that are sort of covered with pot coverings, and a couple of what look like broths when you look into them, and large loaves of bread, some soft, some hard, for whatever might tickle your fancy, and then a whole sort of basket full of eggs, just brown, what you can assume are chicken eggs, sort of just stuck together. More likely than not, all hard boiled. And then beyond that, you see a number of pitchers full of different wines and ales, and one that seems to be full of milk. And the gnome looks at you all and goes, "Please have a seat. Feel free to fill your plates, and the Baron will be with you shortly. Please try to avoid making a mess in here." Yes,
Of course.
good. Okay, I will let the Baron know of your arrival. He turns on his heels and leaves.
That little man seems very stressed.
From my understanding, most people in their position are. Quinskop will look over the table for a moment, and then, with a audible squish as they sit down in the chair, from the cloak that they are still wearing, will kind of just stare at the food in front of them, as if they haven't seen such a presentation in, if not their lives, in a very long time.
Are like it's a dining room table, right? Like a long one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do the chairs fit me, or do I have to set up my own chair? Because I can do that now.
The chairs are actually pretty large and very ornate, and more likely than not, you will fit, yes.
Okay. So, I'm gonna walk along the table, kind of going all the way around it, just looking at everything and picking up a few of the smaller things like the eggs and such, and just like palming them in one hand. And then as I get to one of the trays that probably has some of the fish on it, I'll take those things and put it on the tray with the fish, and then pick up the fish tray with all of that stuff on it and walk over to one of the seats and sit down with that in front of me. And then I will actually also go get myself a glass of milk.
Those bones strong.
Toby is a growing boy.
Yes.
Awesome. Just about as you settled in and have your tray sat down in front of you, the doors open and the familiar face of the Baron enters. Again, he's sort of decked out in all very like rich purples and blacks and like deep reds, and has just all these manner of rings and like necklaces on. And he walks in and he puts out his arms, which don't go out as far as his noticeable gut, and goes, "I'm so glad that you were all able to make it.
We are very happy to be here.
Well, feel free to dig in. You are welcome to any and everything there, and if there's anything you'd like that isn't there, please let me know and I will have it brought." And as he does, he walks over and he pours himself a glass of the milk and picks up one of the bowls and scoops in a bit of the broth and takes like half of a loaf of bread and places it by his seat at the table, grabs a couple eggs and sits down. He goes, "So, it is hopefully a good thing that brings you here.
We came upon your request, to discuss a possible connection of the loss of your son and the loss of others in this town. Our investigations have been hitting walls no matter where we go, and are hoping that someone of your prestige and connections would have hands in places perhaps we cannot go.
And just all of the sort of friendliness seems to sort of drain from his face. That would make sense. Though you don't think I've tried that. You don't think I've already done everything I could do when my son went missing?
No, I don't believe you've tried to track others who might be easier to find, who have also disappeared under similar circumstances. Did you know perhaps of, and Kunskap will go through the list of other missing persons, Kael Orion, Nausea Walsh, Bellion Gillish, etc., and say that they all have gone missing over the past few months, and seemingly with no explanation beyond the city often sees that. But many of these individuals had no reason to leave as of yet, or according to the others that we have spoken to who they were friends, were not ready to leave and then suddenly disappeared. There was one in particular that came to interest. Was the last time they spoke to their friend who we spoke to, said that they had a, quote, new opportunity that they were excited about, and then suddenly vanished.
What was their name?
That was...
Cirrus Tuscus.
Yes, Cirrus.
The name sounds touch familiar. I perhaps could have. So often I will try to employ people who are looking for jobs or wages about the city in order to either help me on a long-term basis here at my home or other odd jobs throughout the city, trying to offer any kind of assistance that is possible to do so. So I do end up speaking with a lot of people, but all of them should be on the list with documented of how much they were being paid and for what, which I'm sure I can have procured for you. But first, I will have to ask. Besides a number of people that very few have any interest in not being where they were once, do you have any other hard reasons to believe my son would be involved in the same whatever it is that is happening here?
It's just coincidental, it seems, that all of these individuals would suddenly vanish without an explanation. As far as I know, your own son also did not have an explanation of their sudden disappearance. It's strange. If there's nothing to it and they just left the city, that's also something that we should know. But if someone is taking the opportunity to take individuals from a city that's often has comings and goings and just taking advantage of that fact, that is also something that the leaders of the city should know about.
So your son went missing around the same time that the first person went missing, and he also fits the general description of most of the people who are going, which is a young, able-bodied individual.
That was a dark time for me.
Loss and grief can be a pain that is not describable.
I can understand your pain. My mentor has died and I've lost him. But there is possibility your son's still there along with these missing people. And if we could find them, we could maybe, and no promise, but maybe bring him home. But we need, there are places we can't go in the city. And if we have more access to places to go, we could possibly find more information, maybe things that you can't see because you are important and maybe people don't want to speak to you. Not that you are a bad person, but you are important. Everyone thinks we are weird.
Why don't you roll me a persuasion with advantage?
Total 25.
He reaches over and he picks up one of the eggs from his plate and just sort of starts tapping it against the table, sort of turning it every couple of moments. What exactly is it that I can do for you?
Full access to Ambergate would be a start.
And what else?
Just making sure that we are appraised of any information that you might gain from this. And we will do the same for you.
Also, what do you know about the monsters? Is it common for there to be monsters here?
Unless you did not hear of the attack of the fish people. I do believe it was in Lower Westseat.
Yes, I did. I hope you will forgive me. I had forgotten it was mentioned to me in passing, and I've been incredibly busy setting things up for Prosperity Day. No, I heard no one got hurt in that attack.
There was a good reason for that. It was we who fought them off.
It was we who fought them off.
It was they who fought them off.
Didn't I say we? I thought I said.
Yeah, I also heard we.
Oh, I heard me. And I was like, get the fuck out of here.
I did everything. Tis me. And that damn accursed house that needs to be destroyed.
Yes.
I heard.
I was going to ask about the house.
Well, thank you for taking care of that. I heard there was some unfortunate damage dealt elsewhere as well. But besides that, I've not heard of any monster attacks. Is that not the only time something like this has happened in Southreach?
Quinskop looks over at Brory.
I believe they've said that there have been reports, but no confirmed sightings of monsters.
Many times, many people, I will admit myself as well, have perhaps gorged themselves too much on wines and ales and meads and see any number of things. I once believed that there was a demon in my home that was not but a fat rat who had gotten himself trapped in one of my overcoats.
Kunskap looks meaningfully over at Brory with their head cocked. In relation to the worms that we also have found within those fish people and the possible connection we have to that as well.
Worms?
Yes, the creatures that attacked have a parasite within them that seem to have been puppeting them after we first killed the monsters, and
Parasite.
we've ran into those creatures before in a place not too far from here.
Do you believe the people may be infected with these things?
We know that the monsters we fought were, and in the cave that Broy was mentioning before, there was, I do believe they were corpses that were brought to life by these parasites. As far as if there's any connection between that and the missing people, we have nothing on that. But it is it's a weird thing to have two such strange occurrences happening at the same time with no connection.
Mm. Yes. That is quite strange. Although I can't imagine how the fish monsters you said what they were would be connected. Although yes, the coincidence is clearly not something to ignore. I will do what I can to help you.
If possible, in addition to giving us what's needed to freely enter Ambergate and such, would you be able to get us something that could allow us to pass through the garrison? A lot of our time has been spent walking around the Domestica trying to look into leads, and that would definitely save a lot of time in our efforts.
I will see what I can do on that front. I can't promise anything. It's, a number of outsiders asking for the right to pass through a place like that is difficult and will likely take me at least a week's time if I can get it approved. Dealing with the Silvercrest directly and the gauntlet itself, there's a lot that has to be ironed out there. You perhaps may have a better chance with that if you were able to provide more than a single reference. Perhaps if and he points over to Brory and goes, I've heard that you are a member of the Dorwin Guild.
Dorwin Guilds.
Have you been doing some research on us as well?
Of course, I do try my best to keep an eye on any interesting characters who arrive in what some would call my city.
As they're speaking, Kunskap will reach over for the broth, put it into a drinking cup, and remove their reed straw to begin sipping at it. And as they smack their lips under the mask, Kunskap will... actually, this would be a DM question. Do we know of a library within this city?
Considering where you've been, so I'm trying to think if Kunskap specifically would. Yeah, absolutely. So having been to the civic district, you absolutely would know that there are libraries within the academic district. There are a couple of libraries within the civic district as well. There are definitely places there. And some of your party members would also probably know that there's uh, a library or two over in Upper West Sea as well. And
The
of
last-
course, the largest of them in the Dominestica, although you're more likely to find religious texts there than anything else.
The last thing I would ask is if we want to try to see if there is some connection between these parasitic monsters and these disappearances, full access to any libraries that would allow us to do some research if there's been any history at all about these parasites.
Well, again, you would probably be better off speaking to the guildmaster for access to the libraries and the Kabbalion, the Azuria, but I would be happy to write a letter of reference as well, which may help with that. It can't hurt.
This may be a tender question, but when you were searching for your son, did you keep notes and papers on the places that you searched or people that you spoke to?
I did. I was what some people might call a bit obsessive, but then we hit a number of dead ends and it became a bit of a problem, and I disposed of all of the work that I had done in hopes of helping me come to terms with my new reality.
Understandable.
At this revelation, Kunskap will lean forward and look Baron straight in the eyes with what can only be called their inhuman ones, and says, "We do not want you to be delving back into a path of self-destruction. If this is something that will hurt you in the long run, we will take full responsibility for this search. You have your own things to worry about, I am sure, with the coming celebration, and I would not want the city to suffer because of our investigations."
Here's what I think would be best. And you are welcome to accept or deny any parts of this, and I will not take offense to it, or do my best not to, at least. I will offer you full reign of Ambergate, though I cannot promise that the people of Ambergate will be particularly pleased with that. I can offer you my written word of recommendation for the Azuria and for the garrison as well, and I will do my best to speak with those I can to see that they assist you in any way that can be done. On top of that, do you all have somewhere that you are staying currently? I know that you have been tenting outside of the guild halls.
Yes, I have my own religious responsibilities I must continue with even through these investigations.
Respectable. And the rest of you?
We've been staying at an inn for the past few days.
If you would like, I have no shortage of rooms here, and you are welcome to stay for the time that it takes for you to do whatever it is that you'd like to do here. And thus minimize the need for travel.
That is very generous. Do the rest of you think that that would be useful?
Aksha thinks it is very generous, but Aksha also thinks that delving into these problems is going to stir up trouble. And the last thing I think Aksha would want and our group would want to be to bring trouble to you. So as much as that offer is kind, I think we should stay elsewhere.
Do keep in mind that if I am vouching for you publicly, then people will already know that there is at least some semblance of allegiance between us. Yeah, if that would in any way impact your decision.
It's true.
Perhaps for the next night or two while we are investigating the area?
I will have to warn against Yodel, though. He has quite a bad attitude, but does his job better than anyone else I have ever had in my employ.
The very angry gnome?
Yes, that's the one. Incredibly smart man. Foul temper.
Yes, I think that we should be able to weather that.
I may need to go back to our other inn of residence and possibly walk back at night. Would getting through the gate at night be an issue?
Not with my writ. What is it that you need from there?
We have various people to keep correspondence with, and occasionally we need to deliver notices or letters as night falls.
We are in close contact with the, what were they called again? The silver hand?
The
Gauntlet.
steel gauntlet?
Steel gauntlet.
Yes.
I did a metal and I did a body part, but the correct one.
If you are in contact with the steel gauntlet, I can have someone run correspondence over to the garrison for you.
This
or to any of the stations.
No, this is something that we need to keep a little on the, what is it? How is the common tongue say it? The down low.
We want to keep our investigations as quiet as possible as we are searching, and who we speak to as quiet as possible to minimize the risk or chance that they are harmed or threatened into silence or any other number of things that can go wrong.
So, to understand it accurately, you're not working with the steel gauntlet, you're working with someone within the steel gauntlet.
Correct.
Oh.
I'm insight checking this entire time, by the way.
Sure. Go ahead, you can roll it. Yeah.
So 22.
Okay. He's been running the gamut of emotions. I mean, he's gotten pretty angry when his son is brought up. He's obviously incredibly curious presently. One thing that does stand out to you is the prospect of when I forget if it was Girna or Aksha who had mentioned it, but the prospect of potentially having his son brought back alive did not seem to spark the kind of joyous reaction one would hope or expect to see in someone being told that. However, you have had previous reports about his son not being the best of individuals, which might have something to do with that. But thus far, that's all that you've really gleaned, as it were.
There are things that I wish to speak to you about in regards to your son that I'm wondering if you would want to, or if you think would help in any way in the investigation. Or if you would like to speak to only one of us in regards so that you are not feeling pressured to do so.
If you have any questions that you think would help, I am happy to answer them as best I can.
What was the circumstances of, because as far as I know, the disappearance of your son and the pain that came after it was not secret amongst your people. We have heard tell of a fight that occurred between you and him beforehand.
One of many, yes. We did not. Topher was... When I was a child, my father believed very much in the idea of ensuring that I understood the position that much of the lower class was in. And so most of my time as a youth was spent labored, working with my hands and with tools and studying. And while I appreciate deeply what that did for me and how that did help with my perception of the people around me, not just here in Ambergate, but in the city proper, at the time, my wife, Topher's mother, and I did not see eye to eye on what his life was to be as he grew, and while I did my best to instill in him some of the values that my father did in me as his father before him and his father before, Topher was more receptive of the spoon than the axe, if that gets across. I don't know if you understand what that would mean, but
Feeling more entitled to his position than
exactly, yes. That just so. And he would often view people below our station as less than, and would treat them as such. And I would do my best to try and corral that and teach him that it was not acceptable, but as he grew, it only got worse, and he was not a very good person. And I understand that. And so we had many verbal and, on a few situations, physical altercations due to that fact. That last one was the same.
Did he have any connections outside of this city? Anywhere he could have gone besides here?
I've taken him a few times on business trips that have taken me out to smaller towns, but no, I can't imagine that there's anywhere else that he would go, because no matter where else he would go, he wouldn't have the same kind of opportunities that he has here. And I would have assumed he would have taken a substantial amount of currency or treasure with him when he went in order to be able to fund that, and very little, if nothing, went missing from my stories.
The last question on this is, where did he have any friends or lovers that we can also speak to?
If he had friends in this city, then it was a good bet that I was paying for them and didn't know about it. If he had lovers, the same is likely true.
So he was not one to bring people over to the house.
No, he... Not that I can ever recall.
Does anyone else stay here?
The servants do. Other than that, now it's just me.
Sorry to ask, but what happened to your wife?
She passed a number of years ago.
I am very sorry for your loss.
It was a marriage that benefited both of our families, and while I certainly do mourn the loss of my companion, we did not always agree on everything.
What was her name?
Sela.
And on this, I would raise whatever's left of my glass and be like, may she rest in peace.
He will raise his glass and join you. By the way, when you drink, you realize that the milk is almond milk.
Fancy.
Awesome, because Toby's totally lactose intolerant.
Oh no.
And you said Sela, right?
Yeah, Sela.
Thank you.
Seelah. I will ask this favor, though. If, by some miracle, you find out what happened and it does turn out that he is alive, that you inform me as quickly as possible so that I may make appropriate preparations. I believe perhaps he would be better suited nearby as opposed to here in Southreach. Perhaps an opportunity for him to take what he's learned from this endeavor and grow.
We will, of course, let you know as soon as we have any information.
And you please try and avoid getting into too much trouble. I am very careful about the people that I am willing to speak up for, and my word carries quite a lot of weight here, as my family has been deeply entrenched in the history of this city. And I would be quite upset for that meaning to lose any of its luster because of bad decisions.
It is not our intention to cause you any problems.
I appreciate that greatly. Now, is there anything else that I can do, say, or help with?
Do you have any rivals for power within the city?
No, the Silvercrest has ensured that that is not a particularly large issue here in Southreach. That seems more of an issue you'd find in Drachal.
Very well.
I know that you very clearly are not from here, so this is a perfectly understandable question, but here with the Silver Crest, they run much of the political aspect of our city. We help out more on the micro level of detail while they handle the larger bits and pieces. The singular organization working tirelessly under the guiding hand of Sanctin Vela. We entrust ourselves to.
And just for my own memory's sake, the Baron was also found out to be um, the one who was investing in the other disappeared person, yes?
Oh, the pies, yes, with Moscow, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So to the other part of our investigation, the last thing that I think we should ask about is Moscow, who is another individual who has gone missing.
Oh, yes, Moscow. I am physically pained knowing the suffering that you said his mother, I believe, is going through. As someone who is in a similar situation, it is.
My
Sorry.
understanding is that his mother is currently destitute. If there is a way for you to assist them in their current situation, I think that would also be quite good.
I will happily do what I can to help her, yes. Although, her son did, through what I suppose now seems to be no decision of his own, take quite a bit from me before being on his way. But if what I am being told by the group of you is true, then that may not have been the case, and
I would call it more of a hand offered to a fellow individual who has gone through similar loss.
yes.
Even if a job is offered, she did seem like a individual who was quite attentive and caring.
I will reach out and see what I can have done to help her. It is kind of you to bring it up.
Another part of my religious responsibilities.
And what religion is that?
It does not have a name. It is just what our people call the old ways. And perhaps the closest name would be, and Kunskap just says the old ways in what language would it be? Garuni.
Well, I am not a deeply religious man myself, but I do understand tradition and respect that. My offer extends to you, of course, as well, if you would like to stay here. That may not appeal to you.
I am unused to sleeping indoors, and I worry that my own sleeping habits would be disrupted by such things.
Oh, well, I would certainly want you well rested for what you are planning.
But yes, we would, after my friends are done eating, and perhaps if this weather would abate, we would like to take a walk around Ambergate to see if there's anything that catches our eye.
Not a problem. I will have writs put together as you dine, and by the time you are done, hopefully they will be ready. Can I offer you at least dry cloaks for your time here.
I am okay, but thank you.
Well, as I appreciate the generous offer, I am not bothered by the wet.
I
Just
likewise appreciate the offer, but I do not need a cloak.
Uh, are you certain?
Yes.
He's like, my front hall tells a different story.
Hey, he didn't see the front hall yet. You don't know.
Hardiness runs in my family. I respect that. Mm. For the rest of you, no.
oh no, actually, it's good. Thank you.
All right.
It'll just get wet again.
That is what they do, yes. I will excuse myself then so that I can go get these things prepared for you. When I return, please do let me know where you settle on potential lodgings. And please, with no hurry, enjoy yourselves. And if there's anything else you need, let Yodel know and he will take care of it. He might complain about it a bit, but he'll take care of it.
Thank you very much.
And with that, he sort of with a bit of a groan gets up and dusts off some breadcrumbs from his gut back onto the table. And he takes the time to go around and sort of shake each of your hands. And for those of you who accept it, just these big meaty palms that sort of envelop, and except for Toby. And he sort of like clasps his other hand over it and shakes it very vigorously. And
Scott will take the hand and bow their head.
then will take his leave, leaving the group of you to dine and discuss.
So should we stay here?
Would make sneaking into Amber Gates to go into the museum at night easier. This is
Toby has an
already-
idea. If Kunskap still sleeps outside of Ambergate, but some stay here, and Toby now has an excuse to leave at night, they will not be suspicious of me leaving and coming back. So I could leave with Kunskap and leave a box or package elsewhere, and the rest of us would still be here, safe, without suspicion.
This is a good idea.
I think so as well.
But we do not know about the museum yet. This may be impossible.
This is up to all of you, my friends. I do not want to take advantage of this man's hospitality.
Yes, because if things go wrong at the museum, this could be very bad.
If things go wrong at the museum, I do not know what we do.
We shall come to that burning bridge when we come across it.
I am very unfamiliar with that saying, but okay.
Do not know how else we would enter Embergate at night without being seen or noticed, without already being here.
We can still meet with the Hand to discuss a potential means of entry there.
The Hand has already told us what he is willing to do, and getting us into Embergates at night is not one of those things.
I do not know. These are the only options that seem available to me.
It seems that we must.
Roy, do you have any thoughts on this matter?
I can see the merit of staying here. If we're given a place to stay, then us being here is less suspicious. So
Then my suggestion is that those of you who wish to stay here, do so. I shall continue to stay at the guild hall, not only to continue my own responsibilities, but also to speak to our friend in the Steel Gauntlet when it is needed to do so.
So then the plan is that myself, Aksha, and Rory will stay here, and Toby will also stay, but also leave at night and come back with Kunskap.
I will be the one who delivers the messages to Annie's, and will also stop by the Quiet Night to maintain our presence there before I return.
And Kunskap Sokka, you feel that you can get in?
Apparently, with the writs that our new friend will be giving us, I will be able to. If not, I have other ways.
Okay. Because we do not want to be seen coming into Embergate at night without, good reasons. We do stick out like sore thumbs. We're easily seen, easily spotted, easily kept an eye upon, and easily remembered.
This is all true, but again, the less we have to skulk around and the more we do our movements out in the open, the more likely that when we do need to skulk around, people are less likely to point their fingers at us. Use these things to our advantage.
So then that is the plan.
So a couple minutes go by, and you all get to finish your food before the Baron, flanked by Yodel, returns. And Yodel sort of trudges up and just drops a number of folded up pieces of parchment onto the table. Each one has your respective names written on the outside of it. And unfolding them and looking inside is a handwritten note that denotes that you are to be given access to Ambergate and that you are esteemed guests and friends of the Baron, with a wax seal next to his signed name.
This way. And she puts it very carefully in her bag.
Hmm. I'm glad that I am able to do this and look forward to any of what it is that you find out. Have you decided about staying or not?
Yes, Aksha would like to stay if it's still available.
Of course.
Could Aksha use your library?
Uh, Certainly, I don't see why not.
Much appreciated.
If there's anything particular that you are looking for, please let Yodel know and he'll help you find it.
I will also gratefully accept your hospitality.
I shall also stay, though I will need to enter and exit the premises in the evening, as I previously said.
To speak with your contact at
Yes,
the Steel Gauntlet.
yes. And to escort my friend Kunskap Soker to their place where they shall rest at night.
For my own peace of mind, would you be comfortable sharing with me who it is that you're working with?
The normal circumstances, I'm sure that would be fine, but at the moment we cannot.
I suppose I understand. I hope that changes, but will not pressure you in any way.
Thank you
That
for
will
understanding.
change when the individual allows us to change that specific scenario. We do not want to create a friend in Ambigate and then create an enemy elsewhere.
As so often happens to be the case these days.
More the pity.
Indeed. And you, my large friend. Ferrari.
Yeah, I believe it. If it's fine, I'll stay here also.
Of course. All right. Then I'm glad that is settled. If you'd like, Yodel can get you settled into your rooms. And then you are free to go about as you like. I only ask that you try not to make too much of a ruckus at night, as loud noises tend to echo through this place, and myself and the servants do require sleep. I am unfortunately getting up there in age. Hardy though I may look.
I'm sure we will all be very quiet.
Appreciate that greatly. Right. So, with that, I think we're going to take a quick step forward and just say that you are each shown to your rooms. The rooms are beautiful, lavish rooms with incredibly soft beds and very comfortable high thread count sheets with these pillows that feel like clouds and deep wash basins for each of you to be able to clean yourselves with, and just absolutely gorgeous. There's paintings hung up in a lot of these different bedrooms that denote, again, more things that have happened through the history of South Reach, or have like a portrait of one of the members of this family from a time long past. But they also have Yodel has a number of the other servants sort of drag in large chests that you can store things in and lock up for your own peace of mind, ensuring that you each have a key for your respective chests, and then sort of leaves you to yourselves. He does, however, warn you that be aware that the Baron does sometimes have company over, and when that's the case, you will be asked to, more likely than not, politely avoid those places so that he can conduct his business and prepare for the upcoming festivals as necessary. But you have full access to the dining hall. You can go have anything brought to you from the kitchens. You have access to the library. There's a study room that you can use if you'd like to gather there or in any of your rooms. And, don't go exploring too much because you are guests here, and respect the privacy of the home and the decency of the Baron, and without putting it quite as politely as I have, Yodel expresses that to you and then
Stay out of the West Wing.
leaves. And with that, I think we're going to come to a conclusion for this week's episode. It feels like a pretty natural stopping point for now. We had a very interesting bit of stuff happen, and I'm really excited to see where we go next week. The party seems to at least have the beginnings of a plan, and that's pretty cool. So, thanks to everyone for hanging out, checking this. If anyone's been donating, thank you for donating. If you haven't yet, there's still time. The link is below. Don't forget to click it. I promise it's worth it. Every time you donate, you're added to a giveaway. We've got cool stuff. Go try to win it. Thanks to all of y'all for being here and joining us and playing this game, because none of this would be possible without you amazing players. And we will see you next week for Dice Trays Action. Have a good night.